The Galactic Council chamber trembled under the weight of fear long before the human arrived. Thousands of alien leaders filled the enormous hall, their voices sharp like broken metal, each one trying to speak louder than the last. The central screens flashed warnings again and again. 3 human colonies destroyed in one night. No one knew how it happened. No one wanted to accept responsibility. So they shouted. They argued. They blamed. They accused pirates. They accused forgotten enemies. They accused rival factions. They accused everything except the one truth they feared the most. Humans were now angry. Flashing lights from media drones painted the chamber in red and blue reflections. Old species shouted about broken treaties. Young species cried for protection. Some begged for peace. Some demanded war. The air felt like a burning forest, heavy and choking. Somewhere deep inside every species, a simple thought pulsed like a heartbeat. If humans strike back, the galaxy will burn. And then the impossible happened. The giant doors at the end of the chamber slid open with a cold metallic echo that rolled through the hall like thunder. A silence fell instantly. Not a small silence. No, this was the silence of prey freezing when a predator enters. A single human walked inside. One man. Alone. No soldiers. No guards. No protection. Only Ambassador Elias Gray, carrying a small black case in his right hand. His face carried no smile, no warmth, no softness. His steps were slow, controlled, almost too calm for a moment like this. And that calm terrified the galaxy more than any weapon could. Because humans rarely showed their true emotions. They stayed polite. They stayed friendly. They stayed controlled. Today, Elias showed nothing. Absolutely nothing. Species with 6 hearts felt all 6 skip at once. Species with antennae felt them twitch uncontrollably. Species with psychic senses felt a quiet pressure in the air, like a storm waiting behind a closed door. The noise in the chamber died. The arguments evaporated. Even the media drones hovered quietly as if afraid to record the next moment. Elias walked toward the center podium without looking left or right. His boots echoed faintly across the polished floor, each step like the slow beat of a war drum. The council chair spoke first, his voice shaking despite his centuries of political training. Ambassador Gray, humanity has suffered a tragedy. Please, allow us to discuss. Elias didn't stop walking. He didn't answer. He didn't even blink. He reached the podium, placed the black case carefully on its surface, and let his cold gaze sweep across the entire chamber. Thousands of eyes, large, small, glowing, split, compound, watched him with growing dread. Elias inhaled once, slowly, like a man preparing to break something sacred. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried like a blade sliding through the air. For 300 years, he said, humans kept the peace. We gave trust. We gave patience. We gave mercy. Today, peace is dead. A shockwave of fear moved through the chamber. The council chair leaned forward as if he didn't understand the words. But he understood. Everyone did. Humans never talked like this. Not in 3 centuries. Not since the old wars. Not since the last time the galaxy saw what humans could truly do. Elias lifted the black case and unlocked it with a soft click. A hologram erupted above it. 3 human colonies, burning, broken, silent. Ruins floating in space like bones drifting in dark water. Entire cities shattered. Dead reactors glowing weakly. No survivors. But there was something else in the hologram. Something hidden beneath the destruction. Something the alien leaders instantly felt but could not identify. A shadow. A pattern. A secret. Aliens leaned closer without meaning to. Their instincts whispered warnings. Their hearts tightened. Something in those images should not exist. Something humanity was never supposed to know. Elias raised his eyes again, and for the first time since entering, he showed emotion. Not anger, not sadness, but certainty. This attack was not random, he said. Not a mistake. Not pirates. Not an accident. He looked at the 5 ambassadors seated in the far left row. They went pale. You know who did this, he said. Because you helped them. Panic spread instantly among the accused. They screamed denials. They slammed their hands on their desks. They shouted for evidence. They demanded proof. Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look at them. We knew years ago, he said. A wave of whispers exploded across the chamber. The council chair tried to regain control, banging a metal staff on the floor. But the room was breaking apart. Fear moved through the species like electricity. Everyone realized something horrifying. Humans were not reacting. Humans were executing a plan. Elias pressed a button. A second hologram appeared. Secret communications, hidden ships, intercepted orders, encrypted files, all connected like a web of guilt. Some of these files came from places the galaxy believed were unhackable. Some came from species that prided themselves on impossible secrets. And yet, humans had everything. How did they get this? Whispered the VAR representative. No one can break those channels. Humans should not have access to these codes, cried the Jalari elder. This is impossible. Elias finally looked at them. Impossible, he said softly. You have no idea what impossible looks like. His voice made the chamber colder. Species that once mocked humans for being young now felt ancient fear crawling down their spines. Elias closed the hologram and placed both hands on the podium. You destroyed 3 of our worlds. You killed millions of our people. And you believed humanity would stay quiet. His head tilted slowly, like a man studying something weak. We are done with quiet. His next words didn't explode. They simply fell into the air like falling stars, bright and deadly. The time for war has come. No one breathed. No one moved. No one blinked. Even species that didn't understand human languages felt the meaning directly in their bones. War wasn't coming. War had already arrived, and humanity was not preparing. Humanity was ready. The air thickened until it felt like the walls were shrinking. One young ambassador stood up shakily. Ambassador Gray, humanity cannot start a war without council approval. Elias didn't even turn his head toward him. Humanity is informing the council, he said. Not asking it. The young ambassador sat down instantly. His legs simply gave up. Across the room, psychic species felt something far worse. Beneath the surface of Elias's calm voice, there was a storm. A storm older than any treaty. Older than any law. The storm of a species that survived extinction events, burned their own skies, climbed from ruins, rebuilt worlds, and turned weakness into unmatched strength. The galaxy suddenly remembered what humans were. Not peaceful diplomats. Not friendly explorers. Not quiet neighbors. Humans were apex survivors, patient until they no longer had a reason to be. The hologram changed again. This time, it showed a different image, something almost impossible to process. A shape too large, a shadow too long, a weapon too silent. The entire chamber leaned in and froze in horror. Elias tapped the podium once, signaling the end of all diplomacy. Humanity will not be hunted, he said. Not again. The council felt a chill run through the foundations of the hall, as if the galaxy itself exhaled in fear. And then, everything fell into darkness. The chamber lights returned slowly, but the silence stayed heavy like cold iron pressing down on every species present. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe loudly. The galaxy had heard the human sentence, and now every ambassador felt trapped inside a cage of their own fear. Ambassador Elias Gray stood motionless at the podium, his eyes unreadable. The black case closed again like a coffin. The council chair finally forced himself to speak, his voice shaking like a cracked window in a storm. Ambassador, why you cannot mean open conflict? Not now. Not after everything humanity helped build. Elias didn't answer at first. He watched the alien leaders the way a shadow watches those who don't realize sunlight is ending. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but colder than before. You want peace for yourselves, he said. Not peace for us. The chamber rippled with shock, because no one could deny the truth hidden inside those words. For centuries, humans had funded council defense, protected trade, saved dying species, offered medicine, shared technology freely. But when humans lost colonies, no one helped. No fleets were sent. No investigations launched. No emergency meetings. The galaxy had simply watched humanity bleed. Some species closed their eyes in shame. Some bowed their heads. Some looked away, afraid to meet the humans' gaze. Elias pressed another button on the podium. A new hologram appeared, but this time it wasn't destruction. It was worse. Survivors. Children crying in underground shelters. Wounded civilians calling for help that never came. Human rescue ships arriving too late. Entire families sitting in the remains of burning homes, whispering final messages before the smoke took them. The chamber filled with soft sobs from species who couldn't handle such raw human pain. Even emotionless species felt something cracking inside their chests. Elias watched the hologram without blinking, his face controlled. But his eyes held a fire so deep it frightened even those who didn't understand human expressions. 3 colonies, he said quietly, but the galaxy sent only condolences. Words. Nothing more. His voice grew heavy, like grief sharpened into steel. Children died calling for help. We heard their voices. Their screams. A few ambassadors covered their faces. A few cried openly. Some tried to speak but failed. But Elias didn't stop. He couldn't stop. His voice no longer belonged to a diplomat. It belonged to every human who had ever felt abandoned by the galaxy they protected. You watched them die, he said. You all watched. A wave of guilt hit the chamber. No species had expected to see the darkest moments of human suffering so directly. No species had imagined that humans would reveal such raw wounds in front of an entire galaxy. And yet Elias showed everything, not for pity, but to expose the truth. The hologram shifted again, showing the bodies of fallen colonists being carried by emergency teams, their faces covered, their hands still holding small objects, photos, toys, letters. The hall trembled with grief. Even species with no families understood. Even species who birthed children in eggs or spores understood. Pain had a universal language. Then the images faded, and Elias spoke with a soft, almost broken tone. Those people trusted humanity would protect them. And humanity trusted the council would respond. His voice cracked for the first time. A microscopic tremble. But that single crack carried more weight than any scream could. We begged for help, he whispered. Gasps spread across the hall. We asked for search fleets. You refused. We asked for medics. You said you had none available. We asked for protection. You said the treaty didn't require it. His eyes lifted toward the council chair, not angry, not hateful, but wounded in a way the galaxy had never seen from a human. We asked you to stop the killers. You ignored us. The chair opened his mouth, but no words came out. Elias straightened his posture slowly, his voice losing the tremble and returning to something harder, colder, stronger. So now humanity moves alone. The chamber erupted in desperate voices before those words even finished. Ambassadors stood, shouting for negotiation. Some demanded more time. Some begged humans to reconsider. But the loudest cries came from species who truly cared. Ambassador Gray, please, tell us what you need. Humanity has friends. We will stand with you. There must be a peaceful way. Elias looked around the chamber, and for a moment, there was a softness, just a small spark, like a man remembering the galaxy he once believed in. Peace requires trust, he said. And trust is dead. The room fell silent again. This wasn't a threat. It wasn't anger. It was heartbreak, a kind of heartbreak the galaxy never thought humanity was capable of showing. Elias pressed another button. This time the hologram didn't show tragedy. It showed data, charts, recorded messages, secret council votes, classified military logs, evidence that when humanity requested help, certain council members actually blocked it. Elias pointed to the 5 traitor species seated near the left corner, each one realizing the walls were closing in. They knew, he said. They approved the attacks. They funded the killers. And they used the council to blind the rest of you. The entire chamber turned on the traitors at once. Screams filled the air. Some species demanded trials. Some demanded execution. Some demanded exile. The traitor ambassadors tried to defend themselves, but their voices vanished beneath the rising storm of rage. For the first time, the galaxy saw Elias not as a diplomat but as a silent blade cutting through the illusions of unity. And then he spoke again, this time quieter, but somehow louder than anything said before. Humanity did not want war, he said. But we will not allow genocide to be disguised as politics. The word genocide struck the room like lightning. The council chair almost collapsed into his seat. Ambassador Gray, he whispered. What does humanity plan to do? Elias turned off the hologram and closed the black case. When he looked up again, his face held no trace of emotion. Only resolve. We will take justice, he said. With or without the council. A cold wave spread from wall to wall. But the response depends on the galaxy. The hall waited, tense, trembling, hanging on every word. Elias stepped away from the podium and walked a slow circle around it, his boots echoing like a heartbeat in a quiet room. When he stopped, he faced the entire chamber and spoke with a clarity that shook the deepest corners of every species present. If you stand with the traitors, you are enemies of Earth. The temperature dropped. If you stand aside, you will be remembered as cowards. A few species flinched. If you stand with us, humanity will protect you, always. A soft light flickered behind Elias as the screens shifted to show the 3 destroyed colonies once more. But this time, beneath the ruins, something glowed. A symbol. A message. A warning. Elias raised his head, and his voice hardened like steel cooled in water. Humanity forgives much. But we do not forget our dead. A single tear ran down the cheek of the rallied ambassador, something her species hadn't done publicly in over 1,000 years. The council chair stood slowly. His legs shook. His voice trembled. Ambassador Gray, what does humanity need us to do? Elias finally spoke the words the galaxy feared but also needed. Choose. The hall held its breath. Choose your side before the stars begin to burn. The screen behind him shifted again, showing a countdown. 48 hours until human response. Elias stepped back from the podium and closed the case. His final words were soft, but they carried through the hall like a bell marking the end of an age. We are done waiting. And with that, he turned, walked toward the doors, and left the entire galaxy drowning in fear, guilt, and the terrifying understanding that humanity wasn't threatening war. Humanity was preparing for it. The doors closed behind Elias Gray, but his absence didn't bring silence. Instead, panic grew like a storm trapped inside glass. The thousands of alien ambassadors remained frozen in their seats, breaths shallow, hearts trembling, minds struggling to understand what humanity had just revealed, and what humanity was preparing to do next. The hologram of the 48-hour countdown still burned, casting a cold red light across the chamber. Every second felt like a drop of acid falling onto the council floor, eating through diplomacy, through lies, through illusions of safety. The council chair tried to speak but failed, his throat tightening under the weight of what he had witnessed. Species across the hall whispered desperately among themselves, voices cracking with fear. Humans have known everything for years. They were watching us this whole time. 60 fleets? Hidden? Impossible. If they go to war, nothing will survive. The traitor species sat trembling, their skin pale, their limbs shaking. They understood something the rest of the galaxy was only beginning to fear. Humans were no longer reacting. They were executing. Humanity was not a wounded beast crying for aid. Humanity was a silent predator that had spent 2 centuries preparing for the day trust would break. And now, that day had arrived. Suddenly the chamber doors slammed open again. Every ambassador flinched, thinking Elias had returned. But this time it was Commander Saren Varel, head of Council Defense, her sharp armor reflecting the red countdown light. Her usual confidence was gone. She looked like someone who had seen the edge of extinction. Council members, she shouted, her voice cracking. We just detected something on long-range scans. Thousands of eyes locked on her. A human fleet, someone whispered. No, she said. Not a fleet. She swallowed hard. Many fleets. A tidal wave of terror hit the chamber. Screens lit up instantly, showing a map of the galaxy. One by one, red markers appeared. Human fleets emerging from shadow zones, warps, dust clouds, nebula edges, abandoned sectors. Places where no one expected anyone to hide hundreds of ships. The chamber gasped. The map glittered with red like drops of blood splattering across a star field. They're surrounding the borders, they're closing all trade routes, they're cutting hyperspace channels. How did humans build so many ships without us knowing? Commander Saren's face tightened. Because they wanted us to know only now. The realization struck the room like a collapsing star. Every fleet that appeared on the map wasn't moving yet. Not attacking. Not threatening. Just watching. Waiting. Like coiled serpents made of steel and fire. Humanity was not bluffing. Humanity was ready. Some species began crying. Some fainted. Some sank into their seats with hollow eyes. Others cursed the traitors loudly, their fear transforming into rage. You brought this upon us. You lied to us. You killed human children and hid it. One traitor ambassador stood shaking violently. Humanity cannot destroy all of us. They wouldn't dare. Commander Saren turned slowly toward him. Her voice lost all softness. After what they showed us, do you truly want to test their limits? The traitor ambassador fell silent, sinking into his chair like a broken shell. Across the hall, the screens flickered again, this time showing the faces of the 3 destroyed colonies. Mothers, fathers, children, bleeding, screaming, hiding, dying. The images weren't loud, but their silence felt worse. Every ambassador could hear the cries anyway, echoing inside their mind. 3 worlds, said a soft voice behind the diplomats. Everyone turned. It was Elder Marsha, the oldest spiritual leader in the galaxy, her frail body wrapped in pale robes. She had lived long enough to see the rise and fall of empires, the destruction of ancient species, the wars that shook the stars. She had never spoken publicly in decades. And yet now, she stood. 3 human worlds burned, she whispered. 3 lights stolen from the universe. Tears glimmered in her ancient eyes. And we did not lift a single finger to save them. Her words were not loud, but they shattered the last illusions in the room. Humanity grieves, she said. But their grief is not weak. Their grief is fire. She looked at the hologram of the countdown and shook her head slowly. And fire does not forgive. Pain rippled across the chamber. A young ambassador broke down in tears, burying his face in his hands. Another whispered prayers in his native language. Others sat frozen, unable to accept the truth. Humanity was not attacking blindly. They were mourning. They were grieving. And they were coming. Suddenly every emergency alarm in the chamber exploded into sound. Red lights flashed. The screens went black, then blazed white. Priority code black, the AI voice announced. Unauthorized extraction detected. The council gasped as the floor began to glow. In the far corner of the room, the traitor ambassadors lifted off the ground. A shimmering blue field surrounded them, freezing them in midair like insects trapped in crystal. What is this? Who's controlling this tech? Put us down immediately. Commander Saren stared in horror. That is not council technology. The trapped ambassadors twisted and screamed, trying to escape the grip of the invisible field. But someone else spoke through the speakers, someone who should have been far, far away. Elias Gray. His voice echoed calmly across the chamber. The traitors will not hide behind this council any longer. The entire room froze. Elias was nowhere in sight. He wasn't even in the building. But he had somehow taken control of the council's core systems, something believed impossible for any species. They will face justice, he said. Human justice. The traitors screamed as they were pulled toward a glowing portal that formed near the center of the hall. No! This is kidnapping. This is illegal. Humans can't do this. Stop this immediately. Elias said only one quiet sentence. You murdered our children. There is no law that protects you now. The portal swallowed the traitors, and the chamber went silent as death. When the light faded, nothing remained, not even a trace of the portal. Commander Serin fell to her knees. He took them. He took them all. The elder closed her eyes. The war has already begun. The countdown reached its next minute. The galaxy watched, helpless. And somewhere far away, on the flagship of the hidden human armada, Elias Gray stood alone, his hands still glowing from the teleport command. His eyes were cold, but his voice trembled with grief only he could hear. For every life you stole, he whispered, we will answer. And the darkness of space listened. The council chamber felt hollow after the traitor ambassadors vanished through the human portal, as if a piece of the galaxy's soul had been torn out and carried away. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence was a living thing now, heavy, crawling, cold, pressing down on every species until their lungs hurt. The countdown still burned on the giant screens. 00:46:29:1246 hours left until humanity acted, fully. But even without waiting, the humans had already changed everything. Commander Serin Varel stood frozen in shock. She tried to lift her arm to check her datapad, but her fingers refused to respond. Her voice felt trapped in her throat. She had seen wars, betrayals, planetary collapses, but nothing, compared to what had just happened. Humans had breached the Council's core systems from another star system. Humans had teleported Council members out of a protected chamber. Humans had shown technology beyond anything known. And worst of all, humans had done it without raising their voices. A quiet species had unleashed its storm. Elder Marsha watched the empty space where the traitors once sat today. Her old eyes trembled. I warned them, she whispered. For centuries I warned them. You do not bring fire into your house and then cry when it burns your walls. The younger ambassadors looked at her with fear, begging silently for guidance, but even she seemed small under the shadow humanity had cast. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open again, not with Elias this time, but with frightened council soldiers rushing inside. Emergency broadcast, one of them shouted. Everyone to the central displays. The screens flickered violently, then stabilized. A shaky live feed appeared. Space, dark, cold, glittering with distant stars. Then a formation of human ships slid into view. Ambassadors gasped. These weren't the sleek, soft-designed vessels humanity usually displayed for diplomatic shows. No. These were war hulls, angular, armored, black as unlit void, with glowing red lines along their frames like veins filled with rage. Impossible, whispered the insectoid sailcar leader. Those sizes, those engines. This is not standard fleet design. Commander Serin tried to regain her voice. Magnify. The feed zoomed in. The dreadnoughts were not alone. Behind them, thousands of smaller ships emerged, all moving in perfect synchronization, like a single living organism. The formations shifted, expanded, contracted, mathematically perfect, like a machine designed with human heartbeat precision. Then something enormous moved behind the fleet, blocking the stars like a curtain closing. A shadow bigger than cities, bigger than moons, bigger than anything the Council had prepared for. Oh no, someone breathed. Not that, the feed focused. A colossal human megastructure drifted slowly into full view. A ship so large it warped light around its frame. A silent, impossible silhouette. Project Dominion. Whispers turned into panic. That's not a warship. That's a mobile fortress. It's too big. Nothing that size can move through hyperspace. What have humans built? Commander Serin stared in disbelief. Her voice finally escaped her lips, but barely. That ship, the Council believed it was a rumor. A myth. A fabrication. Elder Marsha whispered, it is real. And humanity did not show it until now. The screen displayed the full-size comparison. The Dominion wasn't a ship. It was a moving continent of metal. A starkiller. A silence breaker. A message. The galaxy watched, trembling, as the massive vessel rotated slowly, revealing the glowing human emblem etched into its surface. A symbol millions died under during the old wars. A symbol many species promised never to provoke again. Humanity had brought it back. The chamber filled with desperate voices. We need negotiations. Send peace teams immediately. Shut down the human warp gates. Seal the borders. Request talks. But Commander Saren slammed her fist on the podium. Quiet. The hall froze instantly. We cannot send diplomats, she said. Not now. Not when emotions are this high. Humanity will see them as manipulation. Elder Marcia nodded weakly. Humanity will only speak to the galaxy when they are ready. They have chosen silence as their first weapon. The hall realized the truth. Humanity was not waiting for permission. Humanity was creating fear deliberately, slowly, carefully, painfully. Humanity wanted every species to feel this pressure, this shaking, this helplessness, because that's what humans felt when their colonies died. Suddenly another alert sounded. Breaking transmission, the AI announced. Incoming from Human Fleet Command. Every ambassador clutched their seats. The screen shifted again. A dark bridge appeared, stark, quiet, illuminated only by cold blue lights. Elias Gray stood in the center, his hands behind his back, the stars reflecting off the glass floor. No expression, no weakness, only the stillness of a man who had already accepted what must be done. Gasps echoed through the hall. His aboard the Dominion, his controlling everything. Elias didn't greet them, didn't bow, didn't soften his words. Council, he said. His voice was monotone, disturbingly steady. Humanity will begin movement soon. The chamber erupted. Movement. Way. What does he mean? Elias raised one hand, and the entire hall fell silent as if the universe itself obeyed him. Within the next hour, he said slowly, we will perform a demonstration. Every heart dropped. A demonstration. Humanity never used that word lightly. What kind of demonstration? Commander Saren asked. Elias looked toward her, the only time he acknowledged any individual. A warning, he said. We will target no civilians, no habitats, no planets. He paused. But the galaxy will understand. Fear swallowed the chamber whole. Ambassador Gray, the chair stuttered, please, this path is too dangerous. If you attack any territory, the entire galaxy will break. No, Elias interrupted. The galaxy broke when our children died. The room fell silent again. Elias's eyes hardened. You did not listen to our pleas. Now you will listen to our silence. He ended transmission. The screen went black. For a moment, the room felt weightless, as if gravity itself hesitated. Commander Saren collapsed into her seat. A demonstration. What does he mean? Elder Marcia closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice trembled with ancient fear. He will destroy something. What something? Something that cannot be ignored, she whispered. Something that does not kill, but changes everything. They didn't get time to guess. The screens crackled again, this time showing a live feed from a deep space beacon. A location near the outer rim. And there, drifting quietly through the darkness, was an enormous asteroid. One long considered a sacred relic by dozens of species. A place of ancient carvings. A place of historic diplomacy. A symbol of peace. Humanity targeted it. No, someone whispered. Not the Harmony Stone, humans wouldn't, they wouldn't dare. The human fleet moved closer. The Dominion powered up. Space trembled. Elder Marcia whispered the truth. They will not attack us today, she said. But they will tell the galaxy, peace is over. The Dominion's main cannon glowed white. The asteroid lit up like a small sun. And humanity spoke without words. There was no explosion, no thunder, no violent shockwave, just a silent, blinding white line cutting across space like a finger wiping dust from a window. For a moment, The galaxy held its breath. The asteroid known as the Harmony Stone, ancient, sacred, protected for 10,000 years, didn't shatter immediately. It glowed. It pulsed. It cracked. Every species watching from the council chamber felt their chest tighten. For centuries, the Harmony Stone had been a symbol of peace. Treaties were signed there. Wars ended there. Species forgave each other there. Children from dozens of planets were taken on trips to see it, to learn that unity was possible. And now it trembled violently under the eye of humanity. The stone's carvings, old symbols of hope, crumbled into dust. The outer shell broke into spirals of glowing debris. Then the core split, silently, beautifully, painfully. It fell apart like a dying star. The council chamber erupted in screams. No! No! Humans destroyed the Harmony Stone. This is sacrilege. That place was holy. They've gone too far. Commander Saren slammed her hand on the table. Silence. But even she was shaking. The screens zoomed in on the asteroid pieces scattering into drifting rings of dust, glowing softly like a funeral wreath for peace itself. Humanity had fired a warning shot, one that didn't kill, but killed something deeper. Trust. History. Shared culture. The message was not spoken, but every species heard it clear. The era of peace is gone. Humanity will no longer pretend. The room vibrated with terror, but also something else, grief. Even species who disliked humans felt tears forming. Even species who never cried felt something breaking inside. Elder Marsha's old voice trembled. They destroyed the one place the galaxy believed was untouchable. Her hands shook. They are telling us peace is no longer sacred. The countdown on the screen continued. 00:45:03:20 time moved forward, dragging everyone with it. One ambassador tried to calm the others. It's just a warning. Humanity didn't attack us. Commander Saren shook her head slowly. You do not understand humans. She turned toward the screen, her eyes dark. When humans grieve, they do not lash out in anger. They strike with purpose. The feed shifted again. Now the camera focused not on the Harmony Stone's remains, but on the human fleet behind it. All lights on the Dominion dimmed except one. An enormous red glare at the ship's heart. A heartbeat of war. A signal. Humanity was not done. The council chair finally stood, hands trembling. We must open communication with Earth. Immediately, before they escalate further. His assistant whispered shakily, Sir, we've been trying. Humanity has blocked all diplomatic channels. Even emergency lines. Impossible. They used quantum silence protocol. The room gasped. Quantum silence was a last resort technology, forbidden for civilian governments. It prevented all outside communication from reaching a fleet or planet. It was only used in one situation, when a species was preparing for total war. Commander Saren's voice cracked. They are sealing themselves off from negotiation. For the first time in centuries, the council chair looked small, powerless, afraid. If we cannot talk to them, then how do we stop them? Elder Marsha looked at the screen as the asteroid dust spread like a glowing wound across the stars. We cannot stop humanity. Not now. The only question is whether we survive their grief. But not every species believed this. In the far right of the chamber, the ambassador of the Dravani Empire, a tall, armored reptilian with burning yellow eyes, stood up sharply. I refuse to be threatened by humans. His voice echoed through the hall like metal grinding on stone. They destroyed the stone. They crossed a sacred line. And you all sit here like frightened hatchlings. Commander Saren snapped her head toward him. You do not understand humanity. And you do not understand strength, the Dravani ambassador growled. My empire will not kneel. We will not bow to emotional theatrics. The room froze. He lifted a hand and activated his own comm link. Dravani command, bring our first fleet to high alert. Prepare weapons. If humans attack, we strike first. A wave of icy dread swept across the chamber. Commander Saren leaped forward. Cancel that order. But it was too late. The transmission sent. Across the screen, a new window appeared. Dravani warships awakening, engines burning bright, weapons powering on. A dangerous hum filled the chamber. Oh no, someone whispered. This is going to provoke the humans. Elder Marsha covered her mouth. You fool, you don't poke a grieving lion. But the Dravani ambassador was too proud, too blind, too arrogant. Humans have grown soft, he said. We will remind them the galaxy is not theirs to control. Suddenly the chamber lights flickered. A cold whisper passed through the air, like a shadow moving between walls. The screens changed. A single symbol appeared. The symbol of Earth. And then Elias Gray's face filled the display. He was no longer on the Dominion Bridge. He was seated in a dimly lit chamber, hands clasped, expression colder than freezing vacuum. He stared directly at the Dravani ambassador. No greeting, no politeness, no emotion, only judgment. Dravani Empire, he said quietly, stand down your fleet. The Dravani ambassador straightened. We do not take orders from. Elias lifted one finger. The ambassador froze mid-sentence. A tremor rippled through the council floor. Another camera window opened, this one showing the Dravani First Fleet. 50 massive warships. Engines burning. Weapons armed. Ready. Elias spoke 6 words that stabbed the galaxy's heart. Your fleet is already gone. Gasps. Screams. Impossible. What does he mean? Show the feed. The camera zoomed out. The Dravani fleet remained on screen, but something was wrong. Their engines flickered. Their ship lights dimmed. One by one, the warships froze in space like statues. What is this? The Dravani ambassador choked. Elias didn't blink. EMP lattice wave. Commander Saren gasped. That tech does not exist. Elias's gaze sharpened. Humanity never stopped building. The fleet on screen remained motionless. Dravani soldiers ran through corridors, alarms blaring. Weapons dead. Engines dead. Shields dead. A whole empire's pride stripped bare without a single human shot fired. Elias spoke again, quiet, almost gentle. This was not an attack. This was a reminder. His next words were colder than silence. If humanity wanted your worlds gone, they would be ashes already. The Dravani ambassador collapsed into his seat. Defeated. Shaking. When Elias looked back at the entire chamber, his expression was no longer diplomatic. It was something far more frightening. Controlled wrath. Let me make this clear, he said softly. Humanity does not seek to rule. The chamber leaned in. Humanity seeks justice. His eyes darkened. And we will have it. The feed ended. The chamber fell apart. Panic, tears, whispers, fear. Elder Marsha whispered what everyone already knew. The galaxy is no longer deciding if humanity will wage war. Her hands trembled. The galaxy is deciding if it will survive it. The council chamber shook with fear long after Elias Gray's image disappeared from the screens. The Dravani fleet, once proud, once feared, once unstoppable, now floated dead and silent in space like giant metal corpses drifting in the cold. 50 warships, helpless. 50 crews, terrified. 50 symbols of power, reduced to nothing by a human whisper and a flash of invisible technology. The galaxy had seen powerful species fall before, but never without a fight. Never without a sound. Never in complete silence. This silence felt like a prophecy of extinction. Ambassadors cried. Leaders trembled. Even species who believed themselves unbreakable felt their bones shiver with old instinct. Fear of a predator they underestimated. Commander Saren Varel couldn't move for several seconds. She stared at the frozen Dravani fleet on the screen, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped creature begging to escape. This cannot be, she whispered. EMP lattice wave was science fiction. A myth. A theory. Elder Marsha finished her sentence for her, voice trembling with age and fear. Humans turned a myth into reality. The Dravani ambassador stared in horror, his scales turning pale, his claws digging into the table. My fleet, my people. His voice cracked, something no Dravani warrior had allowed for centuries. How did they do this? Commander Saren looked at him with shaking eyes. They studied you. Studied all of us. She swallowed hard. While we believed they were peaceful, they prepared for the day peace would die. The room fell deeper into quiet despair. Everywhere across the galaxy, screens broadcasted the same horrifying image. The Dravani First Fleet, frozen and powerless, trapped in terrifying silence. No smoke, no fire, no bodies. Just perfect, total, absolute stillness. Humanity had shown the galaxy something worse than destruction. What it looks like to be completely at someone's mercy. And they had done it without killing a single soldier. The message was clear. We can end you without bloodshed. We can defeat you without firing a weapon. We can erase your power without touching your planets. And if pushed further, they could do far more. The countdown ticked onward. 00:42:07:14 with each passing second. The galaxy felt the weight of humanity's grief pressing deeper into their hearts. The council chair stood slowly, as if the air itself resisted his movement. Commander Saren, Elder Marsha, ambassadors, we cannot let this escalate. It already escalated, someone whispered. Humans escalated it. Elder Marsha shook her head. No, we escalated it when we ignored their cries. A hush swept the room. The oldest living voice in the galaxy continued speaking, her tone soft but cutting deeper than steel. This is not humanity's rage. This is humanity's pain. Her words struck every ambassador's heart. Humanity was not acting blindly. They were acting with purpose, purpose born from loss. Species with psychic senses felt something unbearable in the air. Heavy sorrow. The kind of sorrow that becomes destructive. The kind of sorrow that burns worlds. Suddenly, every screen flickered again, pulling the Council's attention back to the live feed of the human fleet. The Dominion, humanity's silent giant, was turning slowly, its engines glowing with blue-white fury. Why is it moving? Commander Saren whispered. Where is it going? The camera zoomed out. Behind the Dominion, thousands of human vessels followed its path like metal stars flowing through space. The whole fleet was repositioning. Slow, deliberate, perfect. They're forming a new pattern, a war formation. No, this looks like a blockade. The realization struck the room like lightning. Commander Saren's breath caught in her throat. They're sealing the inner galaxy. Elder Marsha closed her eyes in grief. They are isolating us, step by step. Panic exploded across the room. We must negotiate. Send envoys. Offer reparations. Call for allies. But the council chair raised a trembling hand. Who will they listen to now? Silence answered. Humanity had closed the path to words. Their grief had become a wall. Suddenly one of the screens lit up. An emergency feed from a refugee convoy near human borderline 7. A young alien commander appeared on screen, panicked. Council. We are requesting permission to pass through human territory. We carry no weapons. We are civilians. Static crackled. Explosions echoed faintly in the background. Enemy pirates ambushing the convoy. Please, humans are nearby. If they see our engines they might. The transmission cut sharply. The council gasped. The screen switched to a fleet recording. The refugee ships drifted helplessly as pirates circled them like vultures. The council screamed at the feed, "Help them! Somebody help them! They're going to die!" And then humanity answered. A single human ship appeared. Not massive. Not intimidating. Just a small Guardian-class vessel. It moved with impossible speed, cutting across the pirate's path. Without firing, without shouting, without any laser. Its shields flared, sending a silent shockwave outward. The pirate ships spun out of control, engines cracking, weapons shutting down. The pirates tried to escape. Humanity didn't let them. The human ship extended a beam of blue light, surrounding each pirate vessel like a cage. The pirates froze, trapped in a gravity lock. The galaxy watched in awe as the small human ship opened a comm line to the refugee vessel. A gentle human voice came through. "You are safe now." The refugees broke into tears. Commander Sarin's voice trembled. They saved them," Elder Marsha whispered. "Humanity protects the innocent, even in war." The screen zoomed out again, showing more refugee groups across the galaxy being rescued by human ships. Humanity destroyed sacred symbols to deliver a message, but they still saved lives. They still protected the weak. They still held onto their humanity. And somehow, that made them even more terrifying, even more righteous, even more unstoppable. Commander Sarin's voice shook. "They are choosing who deserves mercy and who deserves punishment." Elder Marsha nodded. "The galaxy is being judged." The countdown ticked. 00:41:50:02, and somewhere deep inside the Dominion, Elias Gray stood alone in a dark chamber, staring at a small projection, the faces of the children who died in the colonies. He reached out and touched one small face with shaking fingers. His voice was barely a whisper. "For them, the galaxy will change." Behind him, the ship hummed like a waiting storm. The galaxy was no longer breathing normally. Every world felt it, every ship felt it, every living creature felt it. The slow tightening of a noose woven from human grief, human justice, and human silence. The countdown kept falling like cold rain. 00:38:22:09. Each second felt like a heartbeat of doom. In the council chamber, leaders who once spoke with pride now sat like shadows, their faces pale, their limbs shaking. Some prayed, some whispered to old gods, some simply stared at the floor as if waiting for judgment. Because judgment was coming. And all of them knew it. The screens flickered again, pulling the galaxy into another storm. A breaking transmission from the farthest border of known space. The holofeed opened to show an alien council outpost, one of the stations responsible for reporting threats to the galaxy. But something was wrong. The outpost was silent, lights flickering, walls cracked, soldiers trembling. A frightened officer appeared on the screen, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Council, please, listen. Humans just arrived." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "Is it the Dominion?" someone whispered. "No," the officer said, his voice shaking, "something worse." The camera turned. Standing inside the outpost, surrounded by shocked alien soldiers, was a single human figure. Not Elias. Not a soldier. Not a general. A human child. A small girl. Barefoot. Wearing torn clothing. Hair tangled. Eyes red from crying. The chamber froze in absolute quiet. Where did she come from?" Commander Sarin whispered. The officer spoke with a trembling voice. "She just appeared in our corridors. Teleported somehow. We didn't sense a ship." Elder Marsha's ancient eyes filled with tears. "A survivor?" The child looked up at the camera. Her voice was soft, cracked. "Help, please." A silence fell so deep it felt like the galaxy forgot how to exist. The child raised her small hand. In it, she held a metal badge, a burned, scorched, half-melted identification chip. The emblem of one of the destroyed human colonies. "My home," she whispered. "It's gone." Several ambassadors broke down crying. Commander Sarin covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. The child choked on her words. "They killed everyone." The screen flickered. The girl trembled violently. "My mama, my papa, my friends." Her voice broke into sobs. "They hurt us. They hurt everyone." The chamber shook with grief and guilt. Then something even more terrifying appeared behind the child. A blinking red light. A teleport beacon. The outpost officer screamed, "Get her out! Get her out now!" But it was too late. In one blinding flash, the little girl disappeared. Vanished into teleport light. The council chamber erupted in horror. No, where did she go? Who took her? Elias Gray, did he? The screens shattered into static for 3 long, agonizing seconds. Then a new feed opened. The Dominion's dark interior filled the display. A long, echoing metallic corridor. Dim blue lighting. Heavy silence. At the far end of the corridor stood Elias Gray, alone, his face pale, his eyes burning with grief so deep it shattered the soul of everyone who saw it. And in his arms, held with impossible care, was the small girl. Shivering. Crying. Clinging to him like the last safe thing in the universe. The galaxy fell silent. Elias didn't speak for several seconds. He just held the girl close, his hand gently stroking her hair, trying to calm her shaking body. The chamber felt the emotion like a knife in the heart. Then, in the softest voice humanity had used since the tragedy, Elias whispered to the child, "You're safe now." The girl sobbed into his chest. They hurt us so much." Elias closed his eyes. Tears slid down his cheek, his first tears in front of the galaxy. Ambassadors gasped. Humans never cried in public. Not in war. Not in diplomacy. Not in history. But Elias cried quietly for a child who lost everything. And that single tear carried enough power to move entire civilizations. He finally lifted his head and faced the galaxy through the camera. The softness vanished. His eyes turned cold. Sharp. Merciless. "Council," he said, voice shaking with restrained fury, "I found a survivor." No one blinked. She was not supposed to be alive. They left her to die slowly. His voice darkened. They left her as bait, to see if humanity cared. A wave of disgust and horror ran through the ambassadors. The Dravani ambassador fell to his knees, unable to breathe. The Var ambassador sobbed uncontrollably. Elder Marsha whispered a prayer for forgiveness the galaxy did not deserve. Elias continued, "This child is proof of everything you refused to see." His grip tightened around the girl as she hid in his arms. She will not cry alone ever again. Behind him, the lights dimmed. The Dominion rumbled. Something enormous powered up. Elias looked directly into the camera, into the heart of every species watching. The time for judgment has come. The holofeed expanded into a star map, highlighting the 5 species who helped destroy the human colonies. Their homeworlds glowed in red. Their fleets flickered. Their borders pulsed. A voice in the council shouted, "Elias, wait. If you strike them now, strike." Elias whispered. His eyes narrowed. No, the chamber froze. Elias stepped forward, holding the girl safely against his chest. "We will not attack their planets." The room exhaled in shock. "We will not bomb their cities." Another gasp. "We will not harm their civilians." A soft wave of relief spread, until Elias finished the sentence with a voice colder than space. "We will take their governments." Silence. "We will dismantle their military command." Silence. "We will shatter their ruling councils." Silence. "We will remove every hand that ordered the deaths of our children." A whisper rose in the chamber. "He's going to wipe out their leaders." Elias's voice softened for one final moment. "And we will do it without touching a single innocent life." The room trembled with awe and terror. Behind Elias, the Dominion's engine roared like a sleeping god waking up. The galaxy felt it in their bones. The girl in his arms whispered, "Don't leave me." Elias held her close. "Never again." He turned his head and gave the order that would echo through the stars for centuries. "Begin Operation Orphan's Shield." Lights exploded across the Dominion. Human fleets surged forward. The countdown continued. 00:37:10:00. The galaxy braced for a storm unlike anything it had ever faced. Humanity wasn't just coming. Humanity was rising. The galaxy had never seen movement like this before. Human fleets, silent, disciplined, perfect, launched from every shadow zone and deep space station. Thousands of vessels slid through the darkness with no radio noise, no broadcasts, no threats. The only sound was the low tremble of their engines echoing through subspace, as if the universe itself could feel the weight of what was coming. Inside the council chamber, all eyes stayed fixed on the screens. The countdown continued its cold fall. 00:34:01:10. Every passing second felt like a footstep of something unstoppable. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe loudly. Humanity was now hunting, but not with fire, not with chaos, not with blind revenge. They were hunting with precision, with control, with purpose. And that made them terrifying beyond imagination. The holomap zoomed out to show the 5 traitor empires, each marked with pulsing red circles around their capitals. Panic spread across the ambassadors representing those regions. Their legs shook. Their claws trembled. Their voices cracked. One of them screamed, "You cannot do this. We are council members. We demand protection." Another shouted, "Humans are breaking every law. Stop them." But Elder Marsha, the oldest voice in the galaxy, whispered the truth that silenced the room. Laws did not protect their children. The chamber fell into heavy guilt. Suddenly, the Dominion broadcast activated. Elias Gray appeared again, standing on a high observation deck, the child still gently held in his arms. But this time, behind him, windows opened to reveal a terrifying sight. Hundreds of human infiltration vessels, sleek and black, breaking formation and preparing for descent. They weren't attacking planets. They weren't heading toward cities. They were diving straight toward government fortresses, ruling centers of the traitor species. Humanity was coming for the corrupt, not the innocent. The council chair stood slowly, his voice barely stable. "Ambassador Gray, you said no civilians will be harmed." Elias nodded once. "No civilians will suffer." His voice was calm, controlled, too controlled. The type of calm that comes from deep wounds. The type of calm that means a line has been crossed that will never be uncrossed again. Elias continued, "We will remove only those who voted for genocide." His grip tightened slightly around the trembling child in his arms. "Only those who built the weapons. Only those who ordered the raids. Only those who silenced our calls for help." A cold wind of justice passed through every ambassador. Elias looked down at the girl, brushing her hair softly as she clung to him. His voice softened. "No more human children will suffer again. I swear." The girl whispered, "Promise." Elias closed his eyes, a tear slipping down. "On every star that ever held human life. I promise." The screen shook suddenly as an explosion of blue light illuminated space. The first human infiltration teams landed inside the primary government fortress of the Targath Empire, one of the 5 traitors. The cameras from orbital satellites caught the image. Human soldiers in white armor, moving like ghosts, silent, fast, overwhelming guards in seconds. But not killing. Not a single gunshot. Not a single death. Instead, they used EMP darts, stun pulses, gravity binds, technology the Council hadn't seen in centuries. Soldiers fell gently to the ground, unconscious but alive. Walls shut down. Weapons melted in silence. Gates opened to allow human forces to pass through without hurting anyone. Within minutes, the entire ruling council of the Targath Empire was captured. Terrified, shaking, stripped of their power but unharmed. The galaxy watched in disbelief as humanity dismantled an entire empire's leadership without spilling a single drop of blood. The Dravani ambassador stood in shock. This is impossible. We cannot stop them. No one can. Commander Saren Varel whispered, "This isn't war. This is a surgical extraction on a galactic scale." The screens continued switching rapidly. One by one, the other traitor governments collapsed under precise human operations. The Var Dominion High Command, captured. The Jurok Syndicate rulers, captured. The Kesh Imperial Circle, captured. The Zelkar Alliance Council, captured. Every species watched as their leaders were removed, quietly, cleanly, perfectly. No chaos. No riots. No destruction. Just the slow, exact dismantling of power structures that had decided humans deserved extinction. Humanity's message was unmistakable. We do not destroy the innocent. We destroy the guilty. Suddenly the Dominion bridge camera zoomed in. Elias Gray stepped forward, the little girl held safely against his chest, her head resting on his shoulder. Humanity's greatest diplomat, now humanity's executioner of justice, looked directly into the galaxy's eyes. His voice was a whisper, soft, gentle, yet powerful enough to shake entire civilizations. The traitors are in our custody. A murmur of relief and fear echoed across the council hall. Elias continued, they will face the families of those they murdered. They will face the truth they hid. They will face the justice they denied our children. He brushed a tear from the girl's cheek. And no innocent life will ever be touched by our hands. Then came the part that broke the galaxy. Elias slowly lowered to one knee. He held the girl with both arms, gently, like holding something sacred. He whispered, voice trembling, I'm sorry we couldn't save your home. I'm sorry we came too late. But you are safe now. And I promise, every light they tried to erase, we will bring back tenfold. The girl wrapped her arms around his neck and whispered, don't leave me, please. His eyes filled with pain deeper than space. I will never leave you. The screen zoomed out. Behind Elias stood thousands of human soldiers kneeling silently, heads lowered out of respect for the orphan child. A single tear rolled down Elder Marsh's face. The galaxy had never seen this kind of power. This kind of discipline. This kind of controlled fury wrapped in compassion. Humanity was not a monster. Humanity was not a tyrant. Humanity was something far more terrifying. A species that remembers its pain. A species that protects its children. A species that forgives the innocent, but never the guilty. Elias looked back into the camera, holding the child close. His voice, soft but unbreakable, delivered the final truth the galaxy would remember for thousands of years. Peace is not dead. It is reborn through justice. The Dominion engines roared like the voice of a rising star. The countdown ended.